In this video we are going to take a look at the top Space Marine army of the Motor City Mayhem 2021 singles tournament. Hold your horses guys, this is no Dark Angels video. I am of course talking about the Deathwatch. Having recently been ranked as bottom tier, are we now seeing the beginning of a comeback in 9th edition? First, we are taking a closer look at the mentioned tournament and some numbers. In the second part of the video, we will look at the two Deathwatch army lists that were being played, where they differ and what they have in common. Then for the final part, I will offer my personal conclusions and a quick wrap up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Temmer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
Not too long ago, I released a video on the current state of the Deathwatch and how they got ranked as bottom tier by popular content creators. This poor ranking was primarily based on their bad ITC battle dataset win rate and very little top table success. The link to the video is in the description. To quickly summarize, beginning of April, the stats were clearly stacked against the Deathwatch. Ranked below average and at the bottom of the Space Marine chapters, things looked pretty gloomy. By comparing various tournament lists, Goonhammer recommendations, a Reddit guide, as well as my own army list, I concluded that Proteus kill teams are dominant in tournaments, but that Primaris heavy lists are also looking promising. But even back then, we already saw a small light at the end of the tunnel, with a Primaris heavy list scoring place 6 at the Ratcom 2021 tournament. This brings us back to the present and the Motor City Mayhem 2021 singles tournament that took place last weekend, April 24th to 25th. The tournament had 110 players, with 32 of them playing Space Marine armies, making 29% of all armies. A variety of chapters were present, unsurprisingly enough, Dark Angels being the most commonly seen, though Salamanders and Ultramarines weren't far behind. This is interesting because the latter two are ranked at the bottom end of Space Marine chapters, together with the Deathwatch. Speaking of which, two Deathwatch armies were present, which makes roughly 1.8% of the armies present. This number happens to match the ITC stats released back in January 2021, showing that the amount of Deathwatch players is roughly 1.8%. So basically, the faction was represented in perfect accordance with their average number of players. Looking at the overall tournament results, the top 5 ranks were as following: Drukhari, Admech, Clowns, Chaos Soup, and again, mostly Clowns. None of these placements is surprising in the least. However, rank 6 is the Deathwatch, and with that they rank the highest among the 32 Space Marine armies present at the tournament, closely followed by the Space Wolves on rank 7. No further Space Marines are within the top 10 ranks. The second Deathwatch player scored rank 34, which isn't too bad either, given circumstances, as we will see in a moment. Looking at the two players and their 5 tournament rounds, they were up against several Space Marine armies, including Dark Angels, Black Templars and Salamanders. The remaining opponents were Drukhari, the Sisters of Battle, Death Guard and the Necrons. While the majority of these are strong armies, of special note is that the 3 losses the Deathwatch players encountered in total were all against clear top-tier armies: Death Guard, Dark Eldar Drukhari, and the Sisters of Battle. Out of these 3 losses, 2 of them were actually quite close, and the only one loss that was more or less the Deathwatch player getting steamrolled was against the tournament winner playing Drukhari. The Deathwatch won all 3 games against other Space Marines, which is funny because I recall one of the commentators saying how Deathwatch is not well suited against other Space Marines. Only 3 games were against Xenos. All 7 wins were accomplished with a clear points lead. With that out of the way, let's have a look at the two lists. We'll be starting with the one placing on rank 34, Nevin Smith's Deathwatch. I admit that this one had me drop my jaw, and I'm still not sure whether it was in amazement or not. With 5 Dreadnoughts and 3 Corvus Black Stars, yes, 3 of them, this list is as vehicle heavy as they come. To make this happen, the list needs both a patrol and a vanguard detachment. For HQs, we have a Primaris Tech Marine, which I suppose does not come as a huge surprise, and the Xenophase Captain. The Dominus Sieges and the Tome are popular picks, so is the paragon of their chapter Warlord trait, with the Ultramarine selection. He also took Rites of War, which I suppose makes sense given all the Dreadnoughts and therefore the lack of OPSEC. The 3 Proteus kill teams were kept pretty minimal, some had Storm Bolters and some had Frag Cannons, but basically each of them was loaded into one of the Corvus Black Star. We then have 5 Dreadnoughts, 3 of which are my favorite ones, the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. As far as I could see, the Vendread was used for the home objective. I guess someone took the popular opinion that Dreadnoughts are great in 9th edition a bit literal. Because this list is so unique when compared to what we have seen so far, I included a screenshot of the game against the Drukhari player. As you can see, he basically used the Corvus Black Stars to get into the corners fast and contest the objectives there. Multiple Dreadnoughts and the HQs were used to contest the midfield. So, what can we take away from this rather unique list? It is certainly vehicle heavy, spamming Dreadnoughts and loading a pretty minimalistic Proteus kill team in each of the 3 Corvus Black Star. Last week I released a video saying that the Corvus Black Star is a little underrated. Well, I did not see this coming either though. We do have the Dominus Sieges, which of course is great with all the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Given the huge amount of vehicles and lack of expensive kill teams, skipping on the Librarian and Apothecary makes sense. Let's have a look at the second list, Jason Sniegowski's Deathwatch, placing rank 6. This one looks a bit more familiar to what we have previously seen being played at tournaments. For the HQs, we have a pretty solid old school Smash Captain with a jump pack, Thunderhammer, and of course the Storm Shield to carry the Dominus Sieges. Furthermore, we have a basic Librarian with the Xenopurge Discipline, another 9th edition classic, as well as a Watchmaster. For the troops, we have a grand total of 5 kill teams, one being an Indomitor kill team with 5 heavy intercessors and 5 eradicators. We then have 3 Proteus kill teams, which are all the same. 5 Deathwatch veterans with Bolter and Power Sword, plus 5 Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claw and Storm Shield each. I do find it interesting that he kept default Bolter and Power Sword loadout. Last but not least, we then have a Spectre's kill team with 5 Infiltrators and 5 Reavers. From what I've seen, the Reavers were used for screening. Sticking to their default loadout, they are basically the cheapest units you can take in order to fill up a Spectre's kill team. And then we do have 2 Dreadnoughts, but in this case, the Relic Contemptor ones from Forge World. They do come with a default 5+ symbol save, so they basically have their own mini Aegis already built in. All in all, this army brings along a mix of different HQs, though the Dominus Sieges and the Librarian powers are certainly in line with what we have seen before. Furthermore, the kill team compositions are fairly classic, meaning mostly a 5-5 split in all of them. I guess one advantage of this is that you can easily decide between doing combat squads or not, or which ones you want to put into the teleportarium. Of note here is that the Deathwatch veterans come with the basic loadout, bolt gun and power sword. More commonly seen are storm shields. There are also no fancy mixed unit combos that we discussed in previous videos. Filling up the Spectre's kill team with Reavers is the cheapest way to get some additional screening units out of this kill team. All in all, we do have a lot of OPSEC bodies in this army. What further stands out here is once more the lack of an apothecary, as well as the dreadnoughts of choice being the Relic Contemptor dreadnoughts. While certainly a solid pick, their inclusion now costs 1 CP each. While these two lists are quite different, they still share a few common elements. They both have the popular Captain with the Dominus Aegis relic, as well as the paragon of their chapter Warlord trait, selecting the Ultramarines chance for a CP regain. We then have Dreadnoughts in both lists, clear winners of 9th edition, and they go particularly well with Deathwatch. Furthermore, we have again the ever popular Proteus kill teams, though in the first list they are being kept at an absolute minimum. Both armies have access to army-wide invulns, and neither of them brought an apothecary along. While the first list is heavily based on vehicles, and as such the Tech Marine makes a lot of sense, the second list does have a lot of infantry, so I would have expected to see the ever popular Chief Apothecary. Perhaps it was simply a matter of points and/or priorities. Either way, links to both lists are in the description. In my previous video on the standings of the Deathwatch, I compiled my personal key takeaways based on the various lists covered over the course of the video. This made me curious about how these would be in line with what we have seen being played. But as with previous tournament lists, these two are rather old school, or let's say still heavily oriented on what was available in 8th edition. All in all, I think that the HQ choices, relics and the librarian Xenopurge discipline are pretty much in line with these recommendations. So are the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, or generally Dreadnoughts, as well as making use of the Spectre's kill team. Unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, we are still seeing pretty classic 5-5 Indomitor and Proteus kill teams. A more mixed unit approach is still lacking, so are bikes in general, another thing that I found pretty interesting. Of company veterans or Hellblasters, nothing can be seen. I still think that people have to wake up on these. To wrap things up, after things have looked very bleak at the beginning of April, with Deathwatch being rated as bottom tier, they have now scored as the top Marines in the Motor City Mayhem 2021 singles tournament. Not only have they won all their Space Marine matchups, but also have they won against several strong other factions that got rated far above Deathwatch. Out of the losses, all were against top tier armies like Death Guard, Drukhari and Sisters of Battle. Over the course of this video, we have looked at the two Deathwatch lists, which could not have been more different from one another. Nevertheless, they still have a few common elements. Dreadnoughts, the Dominus Aegis relic, Proteus kill teams, as well as not taking the ever popular Apothecary. On multiple levels, these two players and their good results go somewhat in spite of predictions and the general recommendations, including many of mine. Personally, I'm still in awe over the trio of Corvus Black Stars. Either way, it is great to see that Deathwatch is finally doing well at tournaments, and we can only hope that this motivates more people to finally try new and old strategies with the 9th edition Deathwatch supplement. So that's it for the current state of the Deathwatch in 9th edition. What do you guys think about these two lists? And were you surprised to see Deathwatch doing this well? Have I missed anything important? And most importantly, how have your games been going as of late? Let me know in the comments. I would also like to mention that I have freshly launched the SwissHammer Facebook page, where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated, as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again, and see you next time.